October 18, 1931. President Herbert Hoover makes an unusual request. He asks every American to turn off their lights for 1 minute. The occasion? The death of Thomas Alva Edison. For 60 seconds, the world returns to the darkness of the 19th century. It's a powerful image. It reinforces the story we've all been taught, that one man, through sheer genius, pulled humanity out of the shadows. But the history is more complicated. If you look closely at the record, Edison didn't invent electricity. He didn't invent motion pictures, and he didn't invent the idea of the light bulb. What he actually did was something far more consequential. He turned inspiration into an industrial process. This is the real story of Thomas Edison, a man who was part experimenter, part entrepreneur, and entirely obsessed with control. Edison's formal education lasted only a few months. His teacher in Port Huron, Michigan, reportedly described him as addled. In the mid-19th century, that was a polite way of saying slow or unfocused. His mother, Nancy Edison, disagreed. She pulled him out of school and taught him herself. But Edison faced a real obstacle. He was nearly deaf, likely the result of childhood illness. He wasn't a quiet child. At 12, Edison worked as a news butcher on the Grand Trunk Railroad. He wasn't just selling papers and snacks, he was running a business. He persuaded the railway to let him install a printing press and a small chemistry lab in a baggage car. It ended when one of his experiments started a fire. Edison didn't treat this as a failure. He treated it as a pivot. Over the next several years, he became a tramp telegrapher, drifting from city to city. He took night shifts so he could spend his days taking telegraph machines apart and rebuilding them. This is where Edison formed his defining habit. He had little interest in theory. He cared only about results. By 1876, Edison had earned enough money from telegraph patents to do something unprecedented. He built a dedicated research laboratory in Menlo Park, New Jersey. Before this, inventors usually worked alone or with a single assistant. Edison changed that model. He hired machinists, chemists, mathematicians, and engineers. He called them muckers. This was the world's first true industrial research lab. Edison's goal wasn't just discovery, it was production. He promised investors a minor invention every 10 days and a major breakthrough every 6 months. The pace was brutal. Employees routinely worked 80 to 100-hour weeks. Edison himself often slept on a lab bench for a few hours before resuming work. In 1877, the system delivered its first miracle. The phonograph could record and replay sound. Nothing like it had ever existed. Some audiences believed Edison was throwing his voice. In reality, he had reduced sound to its simplest form, vibration etched into matter. Now the light bulb. By the time Edison focused on electric lighting, others were already close. Arc lamps lit streets. Joseph Swan in England had demonstrated incandescent bulbs in a vacuum. The problem wasn't illumination, it was endurance and efficiency. Existing bulbs burned out quickly or demanded impractical amounts of power. Edison didn't have a single eureka moment, he had a process. His team tested thousands of filament materials, searching not for elegance, but for durability and consistency. Eventually, they settled on carbonized bamboo. But Edison's true advantage wasn't the filament, it was his systems thinking. A bulb was useless without a socket was useless without wiring, and wiring was useless without centralized generation. So Edison built everything. He designed power stations, he laid cables beneath Manhattan, he standardized meters, switches, and fixtures. He didn't just sell a light bulb, he sold an ecosystem. In 1884, a brilliant Serbian engineer arrived in New York with a letter of recommendation. His name was Nikola Tesla. Tesla briefly worked for Edison. He proposed an alternative method for distributing electricity, alternating current, or AC. Edison's system relied on direct current, DC. It functioned well over short distances, but became inefficient and expensive at scale. AC could travel much farther with less loss. Edison dismissed the idea. He reportedly praised Tesla's imagination while calling the system impractical. When Tesla partnered with George Westinghouse to promote AC, Edison didn't try to outbuild them. He tried to outfrighten them. He launched a public relations campaign portraying AC as uniquely dangerous. He supported demonstrations where animals were electrocuted with AC to associate the technology with death. Edison also encouraged the use of AC in the newly invented electric chair, hoping the public would forever link alternating current with execution. It was a campaign built on fear, but it failed. The economics of AC were overwhelming. In 1893, Westinghouse won the contract to power the Chicago World's Fair. Edison lost control of the electrical future he helped create. Edison's most spectacular failure came from iron. In the 1890s, he became convinced he could revolutionize mining by using magnetic separation to extract iron from low-grade ore. He invested nearly his entire fortune, millions of dollars, into enormous crushing and processing facilities. He moved to the site. He lived simply. He worked through winters that froze machinery solid. Then disaster struck. Vast, high-quality iron deposits were discovered in Minnesota. Prices collapsed. Edison's operation was instantly obsolete. He was nearly ruined. But Edison salvaged something unexpected. The massive crushing equipment he had designed for ore could be repurposed for another material, cement. He founded the Edison Portland Cement Company. His product would later be used in major infrastructure projects, including the foundations of Yankee Stadium. Edison's final campaign for control came through motion pictures. He built the first film studio, the Black Maria, mounted on tracks so it could rotate with the sun. But Edison didn't just want to make movies. He wanted to own the process of making them. Through aggressive patent claims, Edison asserted control over key components of filmmaking equipment and film stock. In 1908, he helped form the Motion Picture Patents Company, known simply as the Trust. Independent filmmakers who refused to pay faced lawsuits, raids, and equipment seizures. To escape Edison's legal reach, many fled as far as possible from New Jersey. They ended up in Southern California, where distance and jurisdiction offered protection. Hollywood exists in part because filmmakers were running from Thomas Edison. Edison's focus was legendary and consuming. His first wife, Mary, died young. His children later recalled feeling distant from him. He nicknamed them Dot and Dash after telegraph code, a detail that felt less affectionate than efficient. He had few close friendships. His relationships were professional, transactional, and demanding. When Edison died in 1931, he held 1,093 patents. He also left behind broken partnerships and embittered rivals, many of whom contributed deeply to the work that bore his name. So how should we remember Thomas Edison? The myth of the lone genius is false. Edison was not the greatest theoretical scientist of his era. Minds like James Clerk Maxwell and Nikola Tesla far surpassed him in abstraction. But Edison understood something they did not. An invention that cannot be scaled is a curiosity, not a revolution. He transformed discovery into an organized process. He turned creativity into infrastructure. He made innovation repeatable. Edison didn't give us the modern world by uncovering its secrets. He gave it to us by organizing its labor. He wasn't a wizard. He was the first CEO of the future.